With Obi-Wan Kenobi's old foe Maul taking the throne of Mandalore, the Jedi Master struggled to balance his duty to the Jedi Order and his urge to help the overthrown Duchess Satine. With permission from Grandmaster Yoda, Obi-Wan is allowed to act upon a desperate plea from Satine, asking for his help in escaping Mandalore. The Jedi Master had to go alone. In order to maintain a neutral position, the Senate head towards the planet, and disguising himself as a Mandalorian Super Commando, he managed to free the Duchess from her imprisonment. But in their escape, Maul's commandos detonate their ship, and the Jedi and Duchess fall into the hands of the Zabrak. In the throne room, Obi-Wan watches helplessly whilst Maul killed Satine with the darksaber, refusing to give in to his own anger, and it would take many years until he could eliminate Maul. But what if Obi-Wan had died with Satine? How would this change the Jedi Order? Who would be able to kill Grievous? As you'll discover, the death of Obi-Wan dramatically alters the history of Star Wars. The Mandalorian Super Commando surrounded Obi-Wan, and his eyes widened when the body of Satine dropped into his arms. As she spoke her final words to the Jedi Master, Savage Opress looked at his fellow Night Brother and asked him what they should do with the Jedi, and to his surprise, he ordered for him to rot in the uppermost cell of the city's prison. Savage felt that this was a sign of weakness, and igniting his double-bladed lightsaber, he brutally guided it into Obi-Wan's crouching body, also decapitating the commandos in close proximity. Maul looked furiously at Savage for his impatience, and yelled that this could lead to their downfall, before he orders for his forces to track down the dissidents, until he felt a darkness in the Force. His old master Darth Sidious had arrived to prove that there could only be two Sith, and Maul prepared himself for the duel, fueled by the knowledge that Obi-Wan had fallen. The disappearance of Chancellor Palpatine had gone unnoticed by the residents on Coruscant, but the whole Jedi Order had felt the death of Obi-Wan. Jedi Knight Anakin Skywalker and his Padawan Ahsoka Tano had been walking through the temple when they felt great pain through the Force, and they both roared in anguish. Still in disbelief that Obi-Wan could have really died, they ran to the Jedi Council, and the mournful looks across the faces of all of the council members told them all they needed to know. Mace Windu told the Jedi that they should not give in to their anger, but this fell upon deaf ears, and the two Jedi jumped into their respective starfighters, intent on killing Maul and Savage. The Jedi take a series of risky shortcuts, filled with separatist ships. By using their skill, they reach the Outer Rim planet, and can sense a great darkness from the surface below. The Night Owls hover above them in curiosity when they land, tailing Anakin and Ahsoka all the way to the palace, which they'd initially lost to Maul's commandos, but the Jedi were tearing through them until they felt the Sith. Maul and Savage were in the middle of a titanic duel with the Dark Lord of the Sith, and when Anakin tried to look beneath his hood, the figure escaped out of the palace in a blur. The Jedi did not give the Night Brothers any time to rest, as the deaths of Obi-Wan and Satine could still be felt through the Force, and using all of their hate and vengeance, Ahsoka firstly manages to use her agile frame to sever the knee of Savage, before Anakin violently force-pushed them both into the walls of the palace. Maul was not foolish enough to continue the battle, and dragged his injured brother out of the rear exit, evading Bo-Katan before they found their way to the docks. After force-choking the customs officer and the port officials, the brothers leapt onto a supply ship, missing the blaster fire of the Night Owls. Anakin and Ahsoka glared in fury at the ship, before angrily trudging back to the throne room, where Bo-Katan had set up a mobile communications unit. Reporting to the Jedi Council that Maul had evaded their grasp, Windu is furious that they disobeyed their orders, and Anakin immediately cuts across him, revealing that the Sith that had attacked the brothers appeared to be familiar. Yoda can sense the Master of the Order itching to lash into Anakin, so calmly orders the Jedi Knight to return to Coruscant for their next mission. Ahsoka attempts to inflict some reason into her master, and rather reluctantly, the Jedi agree to leave Mandalore, hoping they can receive more information about the missing Zabraks. But before the transmission ended, the Jedi could hear a large explosion in the background of the temple, and Yoda asked the Jedi to hurry. Upon their return to the temple, the rage within the Jedi had not been cooled, and they found the hangar being decimated. The council want them to pursue the case, but Anakin and Ahsoka refuse, and walk out of the council tower, only intent on avenging the death of Obi-Wan. Marching to the Jedi archives, the Jedi asked Terra Sunube to search for a ship that matched the description of one that Maul and Savage had escaped in, but even though they could not find it, Anakin noticed another ship that had recently arrived, similar to the one used by his friend Palpatine. Whilst Anakin talked to the Supreme Chancellor, Ahsoka headed for the docks, which were quieter than usual, and ignited her blades in caution when the hooded figure of Count Dooku appeared behind her. He had been expecting her arrival. That is it for part 1 of What If Obi-Wan Died With Satine. If you would like to see a part 2 soon, please like this video, turn on that notification bell, click that subscribe button on this channel, as well as on my other channel What If Films. And as always, leave a comment on what if you'd all like to see next, and how I can improve my videos. Thank you all very much for watching, and see you next time.